Hey guys, I am back for my third video, and for today's session I will be playing 4 tables of 2 cent 5 cents at PokerStars. And yeah, so it's going to be pretty similar to the past 2 videos. So this video is probably going to last about half an hour, and I will walk you through my thought process as usual. I'm still not using any poker software like Coder Manager, but I think I should be fine. Here I have bottom pair in a 3-way pot. I'm just going to be bluffing at this. If they do have nothing, they should be folding pretty often. This guy calls pretty quickly, so the turn is a king. It's not really a good card to bluff at, even though it is an overcut, but it completes hands like Jack 10, King 10, King Jack. All of these hands are in this range, so I'm not going to be bluffing. This card actually coordinates the board even more and actually improves his range in general, so I'm just giving up. And of course this card completes the flush, so I have no more business in the hand. I'm just giving up. So we know he calls his second pair, which may be normal in a heads up pot, but it was a 3-way pot. So previously he limped and called my raise with pocket fours, and he started leading into me 3 streets for 1/3 of the pot. So he bet the flop, the turn, and the river, 1/3 pot size with pocket fours. So next time he does it, I'm going to be raising him or putting a lot of pressure on him. Here the board is kind of dry. I do have 2 overcuts, and maybe a 10 would give me an open-ender, so I think I'll just make a half pot continuation bet and hope he folds. If I do pick up great cards on the turn, like an ace or a king, or maybe a 10, I would continue bluffing. Here also this board is pretty similar to the previous one. I'll just make a small bet. With ace king in the cutoff, I am definitely going to be playing it. Ace king definitely playing from any position. This board is pretty dry, but the likelihood that one of them has a 10 or has a pocket pair like pocket 8s and is not folding is pretty high, so I am not going to be bluffing on this board. I'm just giving up right away. So yes, I will just check and hope this guy checks and hope to hit one of my cards. Jack 9, even though he made a mean raise, but it's possible to call, I guess, but I think as a beginner it will be good to fold. And also, calling here isn't that great when I don't really have any information on how this guy plays. Here I'll just start betting. I do have a gut shot. This card is not good to bluff at. He may be check calling with a flush draw, or maybe with a hand like 8-9, 7-9, or 7-8. So I'm just not going to be bluffing at this card. So similar concept, when the board gets more coordinated, do not start to bluff. I think he has a 6 or a 5. Okay, a 3. Pretty expected as well. So I believe he limped and I raised. Oh no, he raised. So we know he check calls as the pre-flop raiser with bottom pair. my standard would be to check call. If I knew more about his tendencies, I might lead out for value. So my adjustment on table 1 is when he starts check calling. So now that I know that he's check calling, that's the pre-flop raiser with weak pairs. If the 9 hits on the turn, I would start by firing and trying to represent those draws. So if I bet out here, my hand would be quite obvious, but at the same time, I think I should assume that this guy isn't that sophisticated, and this card is also not a good card to bluff at. I don't expect him to be folding his 7th or any sort of overpair, so I'll start by betting at him. The 10, I guess he might have a hand like 8-6, but that is not enough to deter me. He has way more worse hands. Maybe 10-8. Maybe he has pocket aces, pocket kings. I think this card makes him strong, so I'm just going to be betting me large for value and hope he calls me down. Don't really expect him to be calling me with a 7 anyway. I so strongly rep a 9. So on that river, my aim was to get value from a 10 or hands that are stronger. Here, I don't think this guy is aggressive. There's absolutely no reason for me to slow play my aces. I'm just hoping he's doing this with ace king or pocket kings, pocket queens. Oh wow. But in general, when you think your opponents are strong, there's really no reason to slow play. We ended up losing money since the reg is pretty high at 2 cents, 5 cents. King 5 suited, definitely strong enough to raise. I think it's within the top 50 to 60% of hands, which is definitely good enough on the button. This is probably the top 60 to 65% of hands, so I'm also raising this from the button. This board is pretty dry, he bets out into me. I'm going to be folding now because I don't really have much potential, and I don't really know how he plays. But if he starts doing this to me more frequently, I will start playing back at him by either floating him or by raising him. This board, I do have a guy shot to the 8, but it's really not a good board to bluff at, especially when I don't have a backdoor flush draw. So I'll just be checking. If he checks to me again, I'll try to represent the ace. I want to be potting this to apply maximum pressure. And the 6 is not a good card because he could easily be checking on the flop with 7-8 or 9-8. I'm just giving up. So that was also a possible result. Check call turn. I do have some showdown value which might beat such hands, but I think the overall will be beat pretty often, so I'm not going to be bluffing. And just from this hand alone, I can tell he's pretty passive and chases draws. That was a pretty bad player by him. He should be betting the turn instead, and I would have just folded my hand. Or he could even go for a check raise, because technically speaking, my range is kind of capped. I can't really represent any strong hands after checking the flop. But he can represent all straights, all sets, and a lot of 2 pairs as well. That would be how I play my value hands as well. If I did have a strong hand, I would check the ace again, since it's a pretty obvious bluff card for the other guy. So he could be checking to let me bluff at it, and then he could just come over the top with a raise. So that would be the best way to play his hand. Or maybe just to lead out right away on the turn. His play was bad because he gave me a shot at a free card, and also I could easily bluff him on the river if I wanted to do so. So king 5, I might consider raising it if the small blind limps in, because I would think that people limping in a small blind are doing so with a very wide range. If they had any sort of decent hand, they would probably try to steal the pot, steal the blinds. And also, the player in the small blind is getting really good pot odds to call, since he would only need to pay another 3 cents more, as opposed to limping from other positions where they would have to pay 5 cents to see the flop. Your king 4 is kind of weak, I'll just fold. If I knew he was a very tight player, I would be raising it though. Queen 9. I am going to be stealing it from the button if this guy folds. Yes, okay, I'll do it. Queen tray is probably the top 70 to 75% of hands. I am not going to be playing it. Here, king queen against a cutoff raise. I am comfortable calling, even though I'm in a small blind. Here, the option limping or raising. I think they are going to be coming along pretty often. I'll just limp and fold if anyone raises. Here, I don't really have anything, not even a backdoor flush draw, so I'll be giving up. He checked behind pretty quickly, so I'm just going to be potting it and trying to force him off the hand. I want to see his timing, and so when he snap checks as pre-flop raiser, I can be quite sure he has nothing. That's my read on him so far. So Ace 9-9. The board is pretty dry. This guy checked pretty quickly. This guy checked as well. This guy has any 2 cards. I think I'll just make a small bluff and hope they fold. It's kind of based on the timing. I'm a bit afraid of this guy, but this guy checked so quickly, so I can rule him out. And the big blind has any 2 cards. And he's going to be raising a lot of his strong aces, so I can discount him hitting. I can discount the fact that he will be hitting that flop. So timing tells are kind of useful, especially when they check very quickly. They just want to see the next hand. They don't really care about the 2 cents, or rather 5 cents, the 1 big blind that they have invested so far, because they just want to get over with it. And I can assure you, majority of these players are just playing 1 table, so they are pretty impatient and they want to see the next card. Here I have a gut shot. The board is pretty coordinated. If I want to bet here, I would have to fire the turn pretty often. I'm not really sure how they play, so I'd rather just check and give up. Another option would be to bet the flop and bet the turn, but as I've said, I don't really know how they play, so I probably need to formulate more reads on them first. I would expect one of them to have a straight pretty often. A6 offsuit, it is not suitable, or rather way too weak to raise from middle position. Here pocket 9s from under the gun. I'm just going to be raising it purely for value. 9-8 offsuit, I'll just be limping this. Here a middle pair. I'll just bet out. It might get kind of tricky to play, but I can't really check and call. I'll be giving up if I have nothing, but since I have a pair, I'll just bet at it. Here I'm just going to be raising for value. And this card is really bad. He's going to have a spade pretty often, so I'll just give up. This bot is on the dry side, so I'll just be bluffing half pot. This card coordinates the bot, but I do pick up a draw. The thing is that if I want to bluff the turn, I need to be bluffing many rivers. And the fact that he called me so quickly makes me think that he has a draw pretty often. I think I'm just gonna give up, take the free card. Ace 3 suited, I do flop a monster hand, bottom pair plus nut flush draw. I'm just going to be betting and betting and betting. When he bets into me, I don't know what he has. He could easily have a draw, which I think is the majority of his range. I'm just going to be raising it up and just applying maximum pressure to him. So he pots the dongs, the flop, and folds on 3 5s 9s two-tone. So I think he's definitely, I don't think he would fold a flush draw. So he was probably doing it with some middle pair, bottom pair, or some gut shot, like ace deuce, ace 4. I wouldn't be surprised. 4 6 suited I might be able to play, but I think it might get me into trouble. I mean, I could probably play it profitably, but we should just play tighter for the sake of the video. And note that I'm choosing good spots to loosen up. I'm not just randomly widening my ranges. King 5, this guy's an under the gun limper. I would assume his range is stronger. If he limped and a button, I should be calling. A call here wouldn't be bad as well, but just remember we should be tighter. And I will only call here if I think I'm way better than him, which I believe is the case. So if you are not confident in your post-flop skills, you should never be calling here. Ace Jack, definitely a raise to 3 big blinds. He bets 15. I don't really believe he has a flush. My hand is not strong enough to raise because I would be over-representing my hand, and I'll be like turning into a bluff. I think it's definitely good enough to call. He makes a big bet again, I will raise. He makes a big bet, I'm calling. I don't really believe he has the flush. So right now, I'm pretty confident he doesn't have the flush. Though I'm going to raise here because I look very strong. And if he comes over the top, I think he'll be likely to be playing a flush in a weird manner. But he might be doing this with some rather crappy hand. I think there's definitely value. He might be calling me like pocket 8, 7, 8. A bunch of 2 pairs that feels committed. I don't think he's capable of re-raising me as a bluff, so my plan was to fold to a raise. Here, pocket 5s, I'm just going to raise for value. Make a big bet. I need to build the pot after all. If I do hit a set, I can stack him. And that is one of the most horrible bots to bluff at. 3 cards are within a span of 5 cards. So 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen. So within 5 cards. So any Jack, any 10 has a straight draw. So I'm not going to be bluffing at it at all. Here, I'm definitely calling, but I'm going to be proceeding very cautiously. I'm not really sure what this guy has. He checks pretty quickly. I'm just not going to bluff anyway. If I want to bluff this, he's going to be calling me with any 9 or any 8, and I would need to bluff the river again. I wouldn't know whether he has the ace or not. He checks. So I think the likelihood of him trapping is not so high in a 3-way pot, so I'm just going to be bluffing. He's going to make a bluff too big. If he has nothing, he's going to fold. And he did give up, so that's great. Which basically meant that he min 3 bet with non-big pair. Because if he had a big pair, he would never be folding. So he might have ace king, or he might have some other crappy hand. I'm still not sure. Here, this might look like a pretty hand, and in a higher stakes game, I will be frequently defending this, but I haven't really seen him getting out of line so far, so I will fold. Because this is at a lower stake, I would assume that these players are not getting out of line, as my default assumption. But he's Russian, and Russians tend to be a bit crazy and overly aggressive, so we will have to see. I need some time to adjust my reads. Here, bottom pair out. I'm just going to check and try to showdown. King 9, a bit loose, but I think these two players aren't that good. So this guy is really ultra passive. He didn't bet the 9 at all. Even though when the jack paired, it should be pretty evident to him that he has the best hand. So he should definitely. So we know now that he's not capable of value betting thinly. That means that when he bets, he either has more air or he only has top pair, because he's not capable of betting second pair in such a spot. 7-4, I would not raise such a hand unless I knew he was very big. That's half point to me. I do have a gut shot. I could bluff raise here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I actually have the high end of the gut shot. So no, I actually have a double gutter. I think I wouldn't mind raising it. It's a limp pot, so I need to build the pot anyway, in case I do hit my draw. So yeah, it's great that he folded. Here, none of them re-raise me pre-flop, so I'm going to heavily discount ace king in their range. And anyway, there's a king on the board, so it reduces the likelihood of them having ace king anyway. So I probably have the best ace. They probably don't have aces and kings. So the only hands that beat me are pocket 3s and ace 3 suited, which is pretty rare. And there's really so much value. So with ace queen, I'm going to be betting 3 streets there. I'll bet the flop, the turn, and the river on most boards. Unless maybe if the turn and river is a jack or a 10, then I might be pretty scared of ace 10 and ace jack. So I would slow down if that happens. King jack offsuit. Pretty tricky. I will call this only because he raised from the cutoff. But if I think he was more passive, I would just fold it right away. I'm still not too sure how loose of a range he's actually raising. He checks here, so question is, what is he checking here with? Is he checking a hand like pocket queens? Is he checking a hand like ace high? I'll just check back. Okay, the queen's not really a good card, but I'm not folding it. Here I have nothing, so I'll just fold. He checked 3 streets pretty quickly. If he did have a hand like pocket jacks or queen, he would probably take more time to think. So I think I have the best hand now, but what am I actually trying to get value from? I'm trying to get value from ace high, and when there are 2 big cuts on the flop, I do not want to scare ace high away, so I'm going to be betting like 40% of the pot and hope he makes a crying call. Here, I'm just giving up, and yeah, I do hit the jack, so I'm going to be betting for value. Here, this board is coordinated to some extent, so I'm not going to be bluffing with nothing, especially when it's a 3-way pot. Ace queen offsuit from the cutoff. I am going to be raising it. Here, king queen against the cutoff raise. I'm going to be calling. He bets 10 cents, but I have to be worried about the guy acting behind me. There are 2 flush draws, and I don't think this guy is ever folding any of them. And any 10 has a straight draw as well. I shouldn't be messing around with him. In this 3-way pot, I don't really have much options other than to check and hope to hit a king or queen if they both check along. I'm going to be calling here. It's kind of tricky, especially when I don't really know how this guy plays, but I should be able to make some decent assumptions. So he checks here. I think he's giving up quite often. I'll just make a small bet. For value, of course. I'm trying to get him to call with a hand like Ace King. And it really depends on how bad the player is. It's really a board that hits my range, so he shouldn't be calling with a hand like Ace King. One of the big mistakes that many players make is to overvalue their overcuts on flops. And especially when I have position, I would be able to get away more cheaply even if he does hit his hand. Here on this dry board, it's not that dry. There are some gut shots like Queen 10, Queen Jack, Jack 10, 6, 7, 6, 8, 7, 8. But still, I'm just going to be bluffing. I think he has way more random rubbish. King Queen suited, I am raising it for sure. Ace 7 suited, yeah, definitely a raise. This guy limping. I see that he's quite passive. This guy bets 5 cents into me. I'm getting like 10% pot odds, so I'm just calling. He probably has a 6 or a 4 or a 5. That's my guess. Here, I have a set. I'm never folding. Even if he raises, I am going to be pushing my hand pretty hard. Here in the three-way pot, I don't even have the ace of spade or something, some sort of backdoor or flush draw. So I will be giving up here. Here, he suddenly raises his bet. He could have 8-9 as well, and I don't really have any business in the hand. Just fold now. This is a nasty card. I just check and hope that I hit a full house, which is pretty great. Here, maybe I can start bluffing now. Oh shit, I misread my hand. I thought it is ace jack. For some reason I thought it is jack. That was a costly error, $2. Yeah, I would definitely be folding without a full house, because he could easily have a flush. So, I think the video is almost 30 minutes, so I should be wrapping the video up pretty soon. So basically I've recently written a book entitled The Art of Poker. So it's a book that is written for the recreational regular, meaning someone who plays a fair amount but hasn't really invested a significant amount of time into improving his skills at the game. So the book basically walks the reader through the various stages of poker, from pre-flop to flop to the turn until the river. So every street is covered in great detail. It has many illustrations as well, colorful and filled with funny meme references. Like, I mean, if you enjoy 9gag stuff, then I guess you might enjoy the book, because I do serve 9gag quite a lot. And also it is filled with detailed examples, walking through my thought process on how to analyze each hand, break down every single detail about the player type, the table conditions, and basically hand ranges. So yeah, it's also filled with examples and of course a chapter summary, which is useful for reviewing the hand. So I'll just go through a few more hands and I'll just end. Here with no club, I'm just giving up. Here I'm raising for sure. And here, I'll just let the pre-flop raiser make his continuation bet. When he checks behind, I doubt he's strong. So I'm just going to overbet this and hope he folds right away. He calls pretty quickly, so I'm inclined to think he isn't really strong. I don't really have a reason to think that he is a trapping type of player. So I'll make another overbet again. And he folds, so yeah, I mean, stuff like that, it's easy to deduce how strong or weak people are and then try to exploit their ranges. So I deduced that he probably didn't have a flush when he checked the flop, and it's unlikely he has a king as well. Here he bets small and he bets small again. I'm just going to be raising this for value. I really doubt he has a straight or a hand stronger than 2 pair. So I'll make a small raise. I want him to call with a hand like King 10 or Jack 10. And the river is terrible. He has so many aces in his range. I'm just giving up. Sorry about that. I'll be betting this for value for sure. He bets into me. This is... Even though this bet is really small, he has way too many aces. I doubt he's ever doing this with a hand like Jack 10 or King 10. And the only hand I beat is actually Jack 10. So I will just fold here, even though I'm getting crazy pot odds. Because I just feel that he beats me here like 80 to 90% of the time, and I cannot call here. For me to make a good call here, I need to be winning like 20% of the time, which I feel is not the case. So I'm folding. Here I'm raising. And here I'm calling. So he checks, so I'm just going to be betting for value in my top pair. And here I think Queen 10 is a pretty easy raise. This is also a pretty easy raise, because my hand is way ahead of his range for limping. He's going to be limping Queen 8, Jack 10, Jack 8, stuff like that. And pretty easy value bet as well. Here I'll just make a small bet on this dry board and hope he folds. I'm giving up unless an ace or a 10 comes on the turn. Here there's so many draws, I'll continue betting for value. See, he might not fold a 9, he's probably calling a 10 again, and I beat a lot of his 10s. Okay, so we are more or less done with the hand, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it educational. So I guess that's all for today. Good luck at the tables and see you next time.